I think it's time to talk basketball.
Ooh, marshmallows. Will it swish? Hell no.
What's up, everybody? It's JJ Buckets here, and I'm coming at you with another draft profile video to continue the series. For today's video, once again, I'm sure you're not stupid. I know you can see the thumb and figure it out, but it's Jonathan Kuminga. We are going to talk about his strengths, his weaknesses, his potential fit with the Raptors, the case for drafting him, and the case against. That's how this series has always worked. That's how it's going to continue to work. And without further ado, we're going to hop into the video. We are going to kick things off with Jonathan Kuminga's strengths, and similar to Jalen Green, I'm going to praise him for doing it against G League competition and doing it against grown men as opposed to doing it in the NCAA, where I personally find the G League more impressive. With that being said, potential and upside are really the quote-unquote buzzwords when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga. I don't think he lacks confidence in his game whatsoever, which is a really good sign for a youngster. He has elite athleticism with a great first step and good strength as well, and he just has such a prototypical NBA-ready body, which I think could go a long way to helping him out early in his career. With all those gifts, he has a natural strength of just attacking the basket. I think he has good footwork paired with those natural gifts as well. He's very aggressive, and one thing that I personally really like is he can attack the basket from either side, left or right. Like, he can do it with either hand, and I find that something that's impressive. I find that something that's always going to help a player be able to do it at the NBA level, and things that will also help him do it at the NBA level is he doesn't mind scoring in traffic when he's attacking the basket as well. I think those are all really good signs for his capabilities there, on top of the fact that he also just has very good off-ball movement and he's a very good cutter. I just think at the basket is where he's going to live a lot early in his NBA career when it comes to, scoring specifically. I think he has intriguing early ability in the post as well. He can create his own offense out of there, which is not something you see from a lot of young wing prospects. I think that's a really encouraging early sign. I think that's something that he can definitely develop as his career goes on. I think he's also flashed potential as a passer. Obviously, I do think he still needs work there. It's not something that's an overwhelming strength by any means, but I do find it really encouraging that the groundwork for him to be a good passer at the NBA level is there. I think he has decent vision for the most part, and I think as far as outlet passes in transition at the least, I think he'll be very good in that department. I think his athleticism is something that really helps him on the glass as well. He's a good rebounder in that regard. At the very worst, he's an above average rebounder in that regard. The really big standout with his prototypical, build and his athleticism is Kuminga can be a really good defender at the NBA level. And when I say really good, I mean elite. I think with the right team and the right development, Kuminga is somebody that can turn into a player who will comfortably not only guard, but potentially just lock down positions 1 through 4, and could honestly even deal with some 5s as well. I think he has a tremendous amount of potential in terms of what his defensive impact can be at the NBA level with the right team coaching him up there. When it comes to his weaknesses, I think it's obvious that he's still raw in a lot of regards. I think his handle is gonna need work. It's not awful by any means, but it definitely is gonna need to be cleaned up. His decision making could also be improved. In particular regarding that, his shot selection, it's gonna need to be better. It will definitely need to be better. Past that, he just tries to force things too often. I guess this is an extension off the decision making, but he plays out of control at times, and it can lead to some really bad turnovers, whether it be just a combination of the handle and him just attacking too aggressively and leaving the ball out there for an easy strip. That happens a fair amount on tape. Another thing that shows up on tape is just he's prone to getting the charge drawn against him because of him playing overly aggressive in situations where he doesn't really need to. Again, it's kind of an extension off the decision-making thing, but it's definitely, he does a lot of things that lead to bad turnovers, and while the number doesn't pop off the charts at the moment in the G League, I believe it was like 2.6 turnovers a game, it could be something that pops off the charts in the NBA for sure. So he's gonna need to improve it. The really obvious one with Kuminga is his outside shot. That is gonna be the biggest area of focus, I would say, for his development and for any team that takes him. which is why I actually don't mind, you know, him ending up on the Raptors, but I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, his outside shooting is definitely going to improve. Again, if I'm remembering the numbers right off the top of my head, I think he shot like 24.8% in the G League from three-point land, and it was not pretty at times. I think his mechanics are just inconsistent when it comes to his shooting, and he's going to need a team to really work on that with him and make sure that he develops that part of his game. And honestly, it would open up his offense a lot once he does. I don't think he can't develop it. I definitely think that's something that can come with time. He just definitely needs to end up with the right team to develop that aspect. And then lastly, speaking of things that need to develop, I already talked about his decision making on the offensive end, kind of needing improvement. And on the other end, while I talked about the fact that his prototypical NBA body is going to get a lot of people excited about what he can do defensively, his IQ and awareness on that end is something that needs to come up to speed for him to be as good of a defender as he can be. He's lacking in that department at times, fair amount of times. And to be fair, the entirety of his G League Ignite team, you know, did kind of struggle with things like communication and whatnot, but even still, he was a part of that problem more often than he probably should have been. And this is a thing where more reps will definitely go a long way, and being in a better system will probably go a long way, and obviously being with the right coaching will go a long way. So it's definitely something that can be fixed, absolutely. It's just definitely an area of weakness at the moment. So Jonathan Kuminga and the fit on the Raptors, there's a lot of different approaches that I feel like they can take. They can go small ball and run him at, say, the 4 with Fred at the 1, Trent at the 2, OG at the 3, and then Pascal at the 5. Or they can go quote-unquote big ball, I guess, and run Fred at the 1, OG at the 2, Kuminga at the 3, Pascal at the 4, and Birch, or otherwise a center that you acquire in the offseason, at the 5. Or you could honestly even consider just bring Kuminga off the bench. I don't think that's the worst approach by any means, considering the fact that we've obviously talked about here. He is a raw prospect. He is going to need development. He's not necessarily one of those quote-unquote top prospects that you can throw into the fire and just see what comes out. And although I don't think that would be the worst approach by any means, I do think an approach where you kind of take your time with this guy isn't a bad one. I look at this kind of scenario where, okay, you bring him along slowly and you make sure that every game, every season, he kind of just works on something, he improves something, and then say by year 3, you have a star player, you have maybe a borderline superstar. I think that's absolutely in the realm of possibility. I think very highly of Jonathan Kuminga and of his upside at the NBA level, but I do think the proper player development, like the Raptors very obviously have, will go a long way to determining what kind of pro he's going to be in the NBA. I think the case for the Raptors drafting Jonathan Kuminga is a fairly easy one to lay out, and it has been touched upon a little bit, but I do have more to add. Obviously, his upside is tremendous, and the Raptors have some of the best player development in the entire league, so it really just does seem like a hand-in-glove fit, am I right? I think he can absolutely be a superstar and be the superstar for the Raptors. It's not going to come out of the gate, but I do think, you know, year 3, year 4, you'll start to see that in this scenario here. He reminds me, funny enough, he reminds me a little bit of OG Anunoby, but past that, he reminds me a lot of somebody like Jaylen Brown, or dare I say it, and brace yourself for this one, Toronto. He reminds me of Kawhi. And I do definitely think that he can have a Kawhi type of trajectory in the NBA, especially with the Raptors again and their player development. And it's almost kind of funny, right? That, you know, you're slotting in somebody like Kuminga onto this Raptors team and with this Raptors core. So I definitely think the case for drafting him is simple, straightforward. He's a superstar in the making. You just have to be able to make him that, and Toronto can make him that. I think the case against drafting Jonathan Kuminga is also one that can be laid out fairly easily. And it all really depends on the Raptors and how they anticipate this offseason going for them. If they want to have, say, an aggressive retooling and reloading process to immediately kind of put them back into that position of a dark horse, I would say, contender in the East, then this might not be your guy. Because if you're expecting, say, the prospect that you draft to immediately contribute to being a borderline championship ready team, or at the very least a team that could surprise people, yeah, Kuminga can help, but definitely some of the other guys at the top of this draft can help a lot more. Especially if, say, you are ready and willing to maybe give up a piece or two to move up into the top 4 to have that aggressive retool and rebuild. Well, not rebuild, reload. Yeah, in that scenario, Kuminga's not your guy. I don't think so. But if you're ready to take a more patient approach with how you want to return to the top of the Eastern Conference, hopefully, this is a good fit. So that does it for me today. What do you folks think? Jonathan Kuminga is obviously the first prospect outside of the consensus top 4 that I've covered. So I feel like there's a lot more room for discussion in terms of divisiveness of how much people like this prospect, even though obviously Kuminga for the most part is the consensus number 5 after the top 4. I'm still really curious to hear your thoughts on what you think of him, so comment below and let me know how you feel. Other than that, folks, you know the usual drill. You know what I always say at the end of these. Like the video, it really helps the video be more seen and reach a bigger audience, and it does not take a lot of time. I appreciate every time you folks do it. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. I got plenty more draft content on the way, and if you enjoy this kind of stuff, it'll be coming, and it'll be coming in plentiful. Other than that, that's gonna do it for me today, and I am out of here.